Hi, I'm Iris Ware Martinez, your clerk of the Circuit Court. My team and I are dedicated to providing the citizens of Cook County and the participants in the judicial system with efficient and transparent services. This program is an extension of our commitment to providing information services that empower you to make the best decisions possible. I hope you find this episode helpful. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Dana Marberry, Assistant Chief Deputy Clerk, Juvenile Justice and Child Protection of the Clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County. And I'm your host for this edition of Clerk in the Community, Juvenile Justice. Welcome. The Juvenile Justice and Child Protection Division is very comprehensive. In today's program, we will just focus on juvenile justice. The Juvenile Justice Division has exclusive jurisdiction over all minors under the age of 18 who have been charged with violating a federal law, state law, or municipal ordinance, other than a traffic, boating, fishing, or gaming law violation. Cases generally include the following: petition for adjudication of wardship, summons, motions, responses from prosecution and defense, reports, and social investigations. Juvenile records are confidential and cannot be viewed by the general public. Juvenile files are maintained for a period of 21 years from the date of the case's initiation. In the 21st year, a petition for destruction of records is made known from the Administrative Office of Illinois Courts. Our office partners with organizations like Legal Aid Chicago in providing families with help on background checks and filing for expungements. Now, joining me today, so that we learn more about the responsibilities you can expect at the Clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County, is Artez Jackson, Chief Deputy Clerk with the Juvenile Justice Child Protection Division, and Evelyn Field with Legal Aid Chicago, who will talk to us about the process of filing for an expungement or sealing of records. Welcome. So, Artez, let me start with you. As the keeper of the court records, please walk us through the list of responsibilities under juvenile justice.
Sure, Dana. So, as keeper of the records, as clerks, our primary responsibilities is to make sure we keep the records of active and non-active juvenile cases. We also provide dispositions as well as record searches, but it's important to note that because our files are kept confidential in our case management system, we want to make sure that people who are asking for these records provide us with the proper identification. We also work with our justice partners like Legal Aid Chicago, Cabrini Green, and the processing and preparation of juvenile expungements. And this will include sending certified orders to all of the police agencies like Chicago Police as well as Illinois State Police.
Okay. Now, one important point I want to spend more time with discussing is filling out the petitions, which is probably the most important part of the process of filing for an expungement, so that we can make sure that records are expunged or sealed. Of course, we have individuals will come in who want to make sure that their records are clean from perhaps mistakes they made when they were younger. So I want to talk to you about how we do this, whether this whole process, how it works from our end of the office.
So yes, well, first, a juvenile expungement is a process in which a petitioner will petition the court to erase all of their juvenile arrests. This process typically takes about 120 days from the time of filing up until the time the record is actually expunged.
Okay. Evelyn Field from Legal Aid Chicago, let me bring you into this conversation. Tell us how your organization helps people through the process of petitioning for an expungement.
Sure, Dana. So we have a help desk on the ground floor of the Juvenile Center at 1100 South Hamilton. We're open to walk-ins from Monday to Thursday, 9 to 4. And we also have a remote intake line for people who can't come in person. Basically, our agency, our role in the process is to help people through getting their records expunged. So the first thing that we'll do when someone comes into the help desk is we'll try to obtain any juvenile records they may have. If there are any records to be expunged, we will take them on as a client entirely free of charge to the potential client or client. And then we will basically do some records research, draft a petition to expunge, file that petition, and get a court date. The entire process from the day you walk into the help desk to the time that you get your court order is usually about 4 to 6 months. And occasionally there will be a necessary hearing at the court phase if there's an objection received by the state's attorney or any other interested party. But if that is the case, then we will be there every step of the way and represent you in that hearing. So basically, it's just once you step in our doors, we'll pretty much handle the process for you.
Okay, perfect. And I have seen, we have a number of potential clients for your organization that will come to our office asking questions about that. And I have seen how responsive your organization is in helping them from the beginning. On the average per week, do you know how many requests or petitions you'll get in your office?
Good question. Typically, we can have anywhere from, maybe 15 to 20 walk-ins. And these are people who are still juveniles at the time that they come in, or adults who find out that they have juvenile records from when they were juvenile. And we can help with any phase of life that you're at. And probably about, I would say, we file about 10 to 15 petitions a week, and we have about 10 to 15 on average people come in a week. So.
Okay, very good. Now, I have also noticed there are times when people will come to our office and say their record still shows up on a background check when applying for a job, even though their record has been expunged or sealed. Why does this happen? Artez, let's begin with you, and then I'll ask Evelyn. Why do you think this is that someone's record might still show even if they did get their record expunged or sealed?
Yes, so oftentimes we will have people come to our office saying that, I've already went through the expungement process, or I've already expunged certain records off of my background. Why are there cases still showing up? And that's because you have some cases that are where a person may get arrested, but those arrests did not come to court. So in that case, we will work with our justice partners to make sure that those type of arrests that didn't show up in court will have separate case numbers so that we can in turn help them expunge those fingerprints off of their juvenile backgrounds.
Okay, so their fingerprints are still showing up once they go for a job interview or there's a background check for a job. Sometimes their individual things will still show up other than the case.
Yes,
okay.
and in those cases, it's because each arrest is assigned a central booking number. Mm-hmm. Because some of those arrests don't come to court, you still have those fingerprints that are lingering out there. So it's important to note that in the expungement process, with the help of our justice partners like legal aid, to get those fingerprints, those central booking numbers expunged off their records.
Okay. Evelyn, what is your experience with that?
So as Artez is saying, it's not always, once you handle the expungement of the court record, there's still the arrest record that exists. And a lot of people assume that just because they're arrested and there's never a court case, that there's not going to be any record that'll come up in the future, and that's not the case. Every time that a person is arrested, whether they're released to their parents or it then is followed by some kind of court case or something in between the two, there's always going to be a record that is created at the point of arrest. Like Artez says, they'll get the fingerprinting done, they'll have a central booking number, and that needs to be expunged separately from the court case. So often our clients are unaware of even the presence of a juvenile record until they apply for a job or they try to get licensed for employment or otherwise. And usually if they have actually gone through the physical expungement process of getting rid of those arrest records, then they can just present the court order granting the expungement at that point. And the licensing agency or the employer should no longer be able to consider that. But like we were talking about, Sometimes people rely on automatic expungement processes, or they think that because their court case is expunged, their arrest is also expunged. And these are two totally separate processes. So, well, it's all of the same process, but you're not dealing with both when you're dealing with one. So whenever people come into our office, we'll go and get their background. In addition to just the court cases, we'll also get their rap sheet, and that will cover any instance of being arrested, and we will put all of those on the petition. But there are provisions for automatic expungement included in the Juvenile Court Act, but it's not a perfect system. And even if the court case is expunged, the arrest record's not always expunged, and some of the agencies in Illinois are not always going to be super timely with those automatic expungement provisions. So basically, it's kind of an unpredictable situation. So the best thing to do is just get out in front of it and come to the help desk, and we can help you track down any existing juvenile records, petition for expungement of those records, and ensure that you have the paperwork in place in the future to provide to any employers or licensing agencies, so that isn't an issue for you. And I do just want to mention one more thing, which is that background check companies don't always update their records. And so that's another reason why this comes up is even if you've had a record recently expunged, just because it's expunged in the official systems doesn't mean that these independent background check companies are updating it as regularly as they should. So another reason to be armed with those court orders saying that this should be expunged, and that prevents any employer or licensing agency from considering that expunged record.
So you do recommend that your clients keep any and all orders that they may get if their cases are expunged?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Those are extremely important documents, and it's a solid defense to just give it to whoever brings that record up, because that court order will effectively say it doesn't exist even if you're seeing it right in front of you.
And as Evelyn stated before, it's not a perfect system. It's not a perfect process. So that's why at minimum we say 120 days from the time of filing. That doesn't include the time that they walk into her office and ask for help in filling out these petitions. So once we get a court order saying that it's okay to expunge these records, our jobs as clerks, again, is to make sure that we're sending these certified copies to the Chicago Police Departments. The most important agency will be Illinois State Police, because they're then responsible for taking it out of the system for the state of Illinois.
Now, Evelyn mentioned automatic expungements. Can you go into a little more detail on what an automatic expungement is?
So there are some cases that qualify for an automatic expungement, and in those cases, the court will sign an order upon dismissal of the case, whether it be an agreement that was made between the state and defense, the petitioner may have completed some type of program, or the state decides they don't want to go forth with the charges. That will qualify that petitioner for an automatic expungement. Once the court signs that order, we then will automatically remove that information from our records.
Is there a time frame for an automatic expungement?
Yes, so we immediately remove it, but they usually give it 30 days, but we immediately remove those records from our files.
Anything you want to add on the automatic expungements on your end?
Just that sometimes there will be, a mention of automatic expungement during a court proceeding, but then it doesn't actually follow through for whatever reason. And since there's a lot of the time been a long time since you have actually been involved in this case, you might have heard the word automatic expungement and assume that it went through, but that's not always the case. And I really advise people to be safe rather than sorry in terms of coming to the help desk, and if we can find anything, we'll find it. And if we can't find anything, then you'll know that you're clear going forward.
Okay. So you will have people afterwards saying, I understood that my case was going to be automatically expunged, but it's not.
Right. And that could have just been a miscommunication. It could have been, a failure on part of the court officers at that time. It can be a number of things, but again, just it's better to be sure, especially if, it does end up coming up on something in the future.
Now, are there any types of cases that would not qualify for expungement?
There is, so there are two almost everything, almost any juvenile arrest or juvenile court case will qualify for expungement. There's a 2-year wait period in certain instances once the case has been closed for more serious adjudications. And then if there is an adjudication or the juvenile equivalent of a conviction for first-degree murder or for a sex offense where that person is still required to register on the juvenile sex offender registry, those are the only 2 cases that are not eligible for expungement. Absolutely everything else will be eligible for expungement.
Whether they're found guilty or not guilty, they may still be eligible to have their record expunged.
Right.
And it's important that she mentioned the 2-year check date, and our office is responsible for making sure that within that 2-year check date, we make sure that those cases that do qualify for an automatic expungement will show up on the docket so that the judge in the state knows what cases are coming forward. These cases now are at that 2-year check mark. We can now go forth with the automatic expungement process.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Now, is there anything else, any advice that either one of you might give to some of our listeners who may be considering seeing if they could get the records expunged? Anything, any common mistakes that a lot of people make that maybe would help them clear this process a little easier?
Yeah, I would just say that I would advise people to get out ahead of it instead of waiting for it to come up on something. So whether it's a juvenile record or an adult record, Legal Aid Chicago can help you either seal or expunge those records. And I think one of the most common pitfalls is people end up in a really pressing time situation because they'll have applied for a job and they need to get that record expunged before they lose that job offer. And it's better just to get out ahead of it and handle it before it comes up and prevents you from an opportunity that you're deserving of.
And I would say if you are unsure and you're looking to file for an expungement, whether it be a juvenile expungement or an adult expungement, I would say seek out the help of counsel, of legal guidance, like our justice partners, Cabrini Green, Legal Aid Chicago, that can explain the process for you and also help you along the way.
Thank you. Well, I really, really appreciate the information you've given us today. I think it has been really helpful to a number of our viewers who may be interested in getting their records expunged. There are many duties that we do at the Juvenile Justice Department, but this is one of those tasks that we have that we really appreciate when it comes to helping people who may have realized that they've made a mistake earlier in their lives and they want to move forward, and sometimes they just don't know how. So I hope that this information is good for you, has provided you with the avenue to go to either get your record cleared or just to see if there are things on your criminal record that can be removed. Now, expungements is a complicated, long process that requires planning. The Clerk of the Circuit Court of Cook County provides the participants in the judicial system with efficient and with transparent services that aid in that process. This program is a means to an end. So I want to thank you, both Artez and Evelyn, for being our guests today and for your time and your insights. And for more information about the Juvenile Justice and Child Protection Division, please visit our website at cookcountyclerkofcourt.org. And you may also call 312-603-5030 for more information. We want to hear from you. I invite you to follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And that does it for this episode of Clerk in the Community, Juvenile Justice. I'm Dana Marberry, Assistant Chief Deputy Clerk of the Juvenile Justice and Child Protection Department. Thank you for watching.